Welcome
to the Kinetic Life Podcast, brought to you by Kinetic Renew.
This podcast is dedicated to helping you find your way to your dreams, your goals, and your success. We'll be fueling that with key information on topics like health, science, tech, and lifestyle, coated with a few laughs along the way.
In this episode, the modern-day streetlight. They do a lot more than you think. Newsflash, suffocation is bad for the brain. The sleep apnea link to dementia. Your hybrid immune system. Rebooting it could be a cure for disease. Why chili peppers give the sensation of heat. Is your brain playing tricks on you? Zombie cancer cells in your body right now fighting cancer. Plus some helpful tips and tricks to help you on your journey. And now we begin. Here's Michael Chalavutis and Dr. Mark Hertzberg.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Kinetic Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Chalavutis, with my good friend, Dr. Mark Hertzberg.
Who is here too. And I assume if I am here, that means we've got some interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, we got some pretty interesting articles to go over today.
Good. I wouldn't want to be brought here and find out we have nothing.
So let's start with the boring stuff then. No.
Let's shine a light on this entire thing. How about that?
That's a good segue.
What would the heart of the new futuristic modern city be?
One might say the backbone will be streetlights.
We're going to talk about street lamps, but first, this.
The Kinetic Life Podcast is sponsored by Kinetic Renew. Kinetic Renew is a 4-ounce shot of all-natural ingredients that deliver some amazing benefits, like improved mental clarity, long and short-term focus, and improved memory and cognition. Plus, Kinetic Renew improves mood with the added benefits of anti-stress and anti-anxiety. Here's what people are saying.
I drink a bottle of Kinetic Renew, and I'm in a better mood. It's like waking up on the right side of the bed. It's great.
My mental focus is clearly better.
I do notice that I have better clarity. Definitely improves my mood for sure. It reduces my stress.
Visit kineticlife.com today. Log on now and use promo code POD1 for 30% off. That's 30% off your order when you use promo code POD1. kineticlife.com. KINETIQ life.com. Do it now. You're going to love Kinetic Renew.
Streetlights. You mean those things that have been around for over a century?
Yes, those things that have been around for over a century, which New York City has roughly over 315,000 streetlights. I believe there's one every 50 meters.
And 11 of them work.
No, I wouldn't go that far. Maybe 12 or 13.
Okay.
So this is a great jump off for the creation of the modern city, what to build off of, from everything from Big Brother watching with streetlight cameras to find you every time you go through a red light, or to keep track of you, and or crime, and hopefully they're being used for good, to even EV charging stations, I believe was mentioned.
Well, they're a built-in source of electricity, so you don't. It's kind of like the infrastructure's there. You've got this electricity running throughout the grid of the entire city. So anything that needs electricity, you don't have to build a lead. It's there, and all the things you can hang on it. For instance, things that look down can be put there. If you need help with cell moving, radar, lidar, cell transmission, you've got this thing that's kind of overlooking, and you can put a lot of things there. If you want monitoring the environment itself, kind of like your smoke alarm in your house, you could have CO2 detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, ozone detectors. There's so much you can put on them.
And even they talk about using it as 5G towers, in the sense of instead of having one larger tower, they're using multiple, I would guess,
relays.
Each one has a multiple relay, yeah.
Kind of like Wi-Fi boosters in the home. So you're always near a street lamp. You're always near, and they just have to get the equipment and put it on. The electricity's already there.
So are we going to see people just lingering around a street lamp with their cell phones plugged in into their cars? I'm not sure where you're parking your car to plug it in Manhattan because there's nowhere to park anywhere.
Well, maybe in a modern version of Green Acres, for whoever watches that on MeTV, if you don't have good reception, you climb to the top of a street lamp with your cell phone so you can talk.
Oh, well, this way you won't actually need to climb the street lamp because the street lamp itself will be providing reception.
Well, if it had, once they put the relay in there.
Does that mean these things are going to be just oozing more radiation than they already are?
By the way, when you talked about can it look at crime, and that's one of the things, because, of course, once you say that this can monitor, look at this, look at that, when you say if a crime is like security footage, all of a sudden people are going, but you're invading privacy. Now, this is not going to be looking into private homes. And you really got to wonder, because once someone says it's invasion of privacy, everybody gets all up in arms because heaven knows we have enough invasions of privacy. But frankly, if I'm doing something under a street light that I don't want to be seen and recorded, I shouldn't be under the street lamp. So as far as I'm concerned, if you want that street lamp to monitor for someone coming at me with a knife, I'm not worried about protecting my privacy.
Yeah, you're the law-abiding citizen standing under it.
Yeah.
No, and I agree. This is a good built-in base for of what's, I guess, to come in the modern urban environment. And I would imagine that you could start putting solar panels on all of them too, right? I mean, you could start getting using it as a recharge themselves. Trying to go a little bit green here. No,
why not? You could even have them they could put power back into the grid if they're taking power from the grid, if you use them like that. So it really is an interesting thing. The lifestyle when they talk about the city of the future, they're really talking about the lifestyle of the future. And the idea that, when you look at existing cities, so much is not good for the lifestyle of the future, where you have old infrastructure that either needs repair or is wrong. And then to know it's got such a huge head start on a major thing that could help so many different types of technology that we think will be part of the city of tomorrow.
Yeah, it's definitely a good base. Though I know certain things I would imagine, like EV charging or whatever, there's certain cables that probably the current electrical grid is not prepared for. But so there might be some updating, but I'd say it's a good start.
Right. Well, again, when you're talking because certain things take so little power that it's no big deal for the existing street lamp. Although if you say we're putting 42 different sensors on, each of which uses very little power, that might add up. When you're saying something like you can charge your car from it, if it's got to have enough power to do that in a reasonable time, now we might be talking upgrades needed.
No, what's the problem with charging your EV? It's 3 hours till full. That's not too bad, right? You can watch Netflix while you're hanging out.
Well, even that might be how much of a
tax on the grid,
the existing, the existing wiring of the thing. So, at a certain point, you might want to upgrade, but it's interesting that such a valuable part of infrastructure is already there. It makes so much sense. Someone's going to fight it.
Very true. Someone will find a way to make money off it too.
Ooh, I should have bought up all of the city street lamps before they became so valuable.
Success is no different than any other skill. 6 months of super intense focus can put you 5 years ahead in your life. So don't underestimate the power of consistency. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind, always. If you want to be happy, you have to be happy on purpose. When you wake up, you just can't wait to see what kind of day you'll have. You have to decide what kind of day you'll have. Author unknown.
What you're basically saying is suffocation is bad for the brain.
I know, it's a crazy concept, but apparently that's what they're saying in this new article.
Okay, so you're talking in this article that's talking about sleep apnea. they did studies because they know that there's a link between poor sleep and developing Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. So, and sleep apnea, which fits right in there, they wanted to check, is it just the loss of sleep or is there some different connection? Is it just a correlation? For all they know, it's someone who's developing problems that causes the sleep problems as opposed to the sleep problems contribute. So they took friendly neighborhood mice and they deprived them of some oxygen. And apparently they developed problems very much like dementia. So what they actually put a solid direct link, if you deprive the brain continually of oxygen over time, so they're not really talking suffocated right now, but they're saying
short-term hypoxia or lack of oxygen, which kind of makes sense considering you hear people that have sleep apnea waking up gasping for air.
Right, so many moments of not having enough oxygen so that you're not killing somebody in a minute, but it still does long-term damage. And I like this because so many times insomnia and sleep apnea, you talk about one, even doctors, it becomes one thing, and they're very different. Sleep apnea might cause you not to sleep, which is insomnia, but most insomniacs do not have a particular problem with apnea, and a lot of people with sleep apnea won't, they think they sleep. They just don't realize they're not getting much sleep during that time.
Well, they wake up exhausted.
Right, but they'll wake up so many times during the night that they never get a good sleep. But there's no point in the night, or maybe not more than other people, where they wake up. It's not like every 10 seconds they wake up and go, I'm up again, I can't sleep. They think they're asleep. They're just never in real sleep. And this is separating. This is sleep apnea, and it's not the lack of sleep in this study. Lack of sleep probably has its own problems that can make dementia, cause it or make it worse. Yeah. But this is saying literally directly the long-term low level of oxygen causes some of these problems.
Yes, if you have sleep apnea, or you think you do, go see a physician. It's not just, this doesn't just help your partner get a good night's sleep by not having to hear you make noises. You might actually slowly be damaging your brain. And the brain's a good thing to have functioning, people.
Yeah, some people even use them.
Some, not everyone.
No. I've been places where nobody violates the minimum thinking age rule.
You don't believe in yourself, nobody else will, except your dog. Your dog always thinks you're a legend, no matter what you think of yourself. Author unknown. It doesn't matter who you are today. The only thing that matters is who you want to become and the price you are willing to pay to get there. Author unknown. You are not weird. You are a handcrafted, limited edition. Author unknown.
Have you ever heard of a hybrid immune system? It might be like a hybrid vehicle, but I don't think it is.
Actually, yes, I have. Could it be I read the same article you read? I don't know.
That's crazy talk, so I'm going to say no.
Okay, before I read the article, I had never heard of it.
Yeah, so apparently they use a hybrid immune system by rebooting the body in some way to essentially cure diabetes in mice, for at least for a short term.
Well, when I read this article, I think they concentrated too much on the diabetes, and to me, diabetes is just the example they used.
Yeah.
It's a much bigger thing than that. And basically, what they were talking about here is an autoimmune process where you're attacking your own cells that make the insulin.
Correct.
Okay, so what they did in this... also, were they talking about... Was this beyond that? Were they talking about when you try to... you want to transplant healthy ones in?
Correct.
But what they were basically saying is they completely turned off the immune system. Kind of like turning off a computer to reboot it.
Yeah, they lowered it. They used low-level radiation to kind of...
Zonk it out.
Yeah, to pretty much reduce
Do not
functioning.
try this at home.
Yeah, both the immune system as well as the stem cells to make the immune cells.
Right,
yeah.
and that's the key. Now, to give a little understanding, the immune system recognizes the proteins on the surfaces of your own cells as you. That's right. I shouldn't have gone autoimmune. I'm jumping to something else because autoimmune is when it doesn't. So it recognizes you as you, and anything different is to be attacked. And at a certain point in your very beginning, you remember the baby isn't born with its own immune system active. It learns what it's like looking in the mirror and go, that's me. If I see me, don't hit me. And it learns what to consider itself and not attack. And by rebooting it, it kind of takes it back to an earlier point and says, okay, you have been turned off. You don't know who you are. You don't know who is self to not attack and who is stranger to attack. And they put the new cells that they're going to put in there, the new stem cells.
In these cases, the insulin beta
cells, I believe they are.
Yeah, beta cells.
That are being donated that have, a completely different surface protein. It's somebody else. But when you now reboot the system, it says, okay, let me learn who I am. And by hybrid, what they mean is the new immune system has both your protein signature and the donor's protein signature. And when you reboot, it looks at both and says, that's all me.
Yeah,
it's now
both.
one system, and I won't attack anything that I've just learned is me. And I see no reason why this could not in the long term apply to any type of transplant. So, in other episodes we discussed, trying to turn everyone into type O, clear out the stuff that is recognized.
So saying blood disorders this might help out with.
Right, but to me it would seem that this is more of a really significant concept for all type of rejection. And I guess, maybe when I brought up autoimmune, when I shouldn't have, but could you reboot a person who has autoimmune disease where they stop recognizing themselves and say, let's go back to boot camp with the immune system. This is us. We don't attack us.
Based off the way that describing how this works, that would make sense instead of just using some type of immunosuppressant to keep your immune system low to kind of, if you could potentially, quote, reboot it, in which case you're hoping that when it reboots, it recognizes everything as self and stops attacking itself.
Everything that should be recognized as self is self. Oh.
So yes, the concept would make sense, but in this situation they haven't gone that far with the research yet.
It's kind of like induce amnesia and learn who you are from scratch.
Yeah, as essentially it's a full reset, and in this situation it's your immune system. But I guess a hard reboot. Whether it's your computer or in this case your immune system, not a bad thing sometimes.
So I guess that makes the immune system extremely philosophical because it has to ask the question, who am I?
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. I'm not sure if the immune system is, has that much of a conscience, but it
has no conscience because if it doesn't think that it's me, it kills it.
That's true.
Your life will not accidentally end up awesome. Make the choice, find the courage, do the work. Craig Harper. Motivate yourself. Don't listen to those who only see your mistakes. Author unknown. It doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. Author unknown.
Okay, Mike, that was a pretty hot topic. Or did it just seem to be hot?
I'd be saying the same thing for chili peppers. Why do chili peppers or spicy peppers give that sensation of heat while menthol is cooling?
Why does orange juice taste so bad after you brush your teeth?
Oh, I'll let you go into that one.
Well, there's mint in that toothpaste, and mint is menthol, and menthol is a drug.
So in both of these situations, this chili peppers aren't actually hot. You just perceived heat. And same thing with menthol. It's not actually cooling your skin. It is a cooling feel. And it's all based off of a certain type of receptor, the TRP, or terp receptor, that family of receptors. But capsaicin, which is the active ingredient in chili peppers, is interacting with one receptor, while menthol is interacting with another terp receptor, both leading to opening ion channels, causing your brain to perceive one sensation or the other.
Okay, to simplify a couple things, nerve sense signals, it's electrochemicals. So it's not quite like your circuitry in your phone that sends electrical impulses. It needs a chemical reaction to cause an impulse. So it's both electric and chemical involved. And basically, when you say you open an ion channel, that's saying chemically you, kind of like a battery, chemically lets ions move to make an electric charge,
causing it to fire.
So that's how a nerve sends a signal to the brain, or the brain sends a motor signal down, they're opening and closing ion channels to send their electric pulses to say, move, or move away from that, it's hot. So the chili peppers are kind of like a drug that activates a receptor that says, it's hot, it's hot. And the menthol is a drug that activates a receptor that says, no, it's freezing in there.
Both aren't, it's just causing the sensation. At the end of the day, neither one is either hot nor cold.
That's right. And like orange juice, what I use in the example, is more of an acid, actually does more actual burning than the chili pepper that feels like it's burning through you.
So the two receptors are actually terp V1, which is, I believe, for capsaicin, and terp M8 is for menthol.
But then there are other numbers of the terp V1, and so you said the capsaicin, and that might explain many hot foods. But what about things like wasabi sauce or horseradish?
Yeah, wasabi, horseradish, garlic, and I believe even certain types of mustard. It's a completely different receptor. That's why some people, they like the heat of wasabi, let's say, but they don't like the heat of, say, a chili pepper. Completely different mechanism in the situation. In this case, I believe it's a terp A1 or something.
And if it's something like, if you like Red Hots or those good old atomic fireballs, they're using enough cinnamon. And the cinnamon, it doesn't activate the terp for heat. It activates the terp for warm. But it really, if you get enough of it, it don't matter. It's hot.
Yeah, and this goes beyond just the heat. When you actually get sunburn, it lowers the threshold on, I believe it's a terp.
What feels like burning.
Yeah, which feels like burning. So it's, I think the V1.
Right. So the sunburn, when you feel it burning, it's not necessarily burning. It's simply its receptivity has been moved to think, 90 degrees is 109.
So that's why more often than not, when you get sunburned at the beach and you don't realize, and you go home and you want to take a shower to get the sand and the suntan lotion off, what would be a normal shower temperature for you seems like it's scalding hot.
But it opens the pores. It helps. And that's also why when you get the Noxzema cold cream, am I giving a plug to a company? It tries to make it feel cool because it has menthol. Or is it eucalyptus, which also does the same thing as menthol?
Yeah, eucalyptus has a similar ingredient in it that interacts with the same receptors as menthol. So it feels like it's the same thing, which I'm not sure. I've used those menthol jellies for when I had a cold, and I just end up having a whole bunch of jelly on my chest. I never got too much out of it, but that's personal preference.
Yeah. Well, but now you understand, like when people brush their teeth and they're going, okay, it feels cold and things taste weird, it's basically because a lot of your nerve receptors have been drugged. And until that wears off, they act funny.
Yeah, well, now let's go into the next thing, Mark.
Oh.
When you have too much capsaicin, it also leads to, almost a euphoric state afterwards. You get releasing endorphins when people who have too much chili pepper. I'm not sure if the same thing in menthol, because I can't say I've experienced it, but for someone who does like the taste of heat from a chili pepper, if you get past that pain of the capsaicin, it's a euphoric state following.
It releases endorphins in the brain. And in the article we just read here, it said something, because I have known for 1,000 years that a plant that wants birds to spread it will develop the capsaicin because it kills off insects. Birds are wired differently. They don't even taste it as heat. Now, in this article, it mentioned that if the plants want the birds to come, but not, let's say, rodents, because the rodents it's heat and to the birds it's neutral. But now, what I had read years ago saying it's not neutral in birds. The birds don't taste the heat, but they get the endorphin effect. Now, I guess we'd have to fact check and see if maybe did the new article not know that, or has that been overturned since I read it 100 years ago? Or did I say 1,000 years ago? A long time ago.
So I know that's why the endorphins make sense. While some people, you might know someone loves spicy food and they kind of keep pushing the limits because it literally becomes, I would say, almost addictive, not in a bad way, that they always want a little bit more spice, and they kind of keep pushing the limit because you're getting that nice endorphin release. Some people get a runner's high. In this case, it's a chili pepper high.
For those who don't know, both Mike and I can't get enough of the hot stuff.
Habaneros.
But what we've never done in the experiment is mix a lot of menthol with a mint with a lot of the heat and see if it, I don't know, causes an explosive condition.
Menthol with a chili pepper? I don't know what would happen.
We got to get someone to try this.
Maybe we'll try it on our producer first. We'll see how it reacts before we do it ourselves.
I am a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more of it I have. Thomas Jefferson. Concentrate all of your thoughts upon the work in hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus. Alexander Graham Bell. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. Winston Churchill. The same boiling water that makes an egg turn hard will make a potato soft. So, you need to dictate your environment and don't let the environment dictate you. Author unknown. Mistakes are proof you are trying. Author unknown.
Mike!
Yes.
Do you remember the movie Monsters vs. Aliens?
Know of it, can't say I saw it.
Oh, well, then how about Zombies vs. Cancer?
Is that a new one? Is that part of the MCU?
It should be. It should be part of something. But right now it's part of the science news covered in this podcast. Ooh.
So are we recruiting zombies to fight cancer? Are these good zombies, I guess?
These are zombies that we have under control.
Ooh.
So these are zombie cells.
Well, what's a zombie cell?
What's a zombie cell?
That sounds fun, but scary.
It's actually in cells. If you learn to get that your cells, every once in a while, a cell has split over your lifetime and reproduced and replaced too many times, and it hits a limit, and it's called a senescent cell. That is a cell that is just not going to divide anymore. And
So it's a retired cell.
and the immune cell are supposed to recognize and remove these things. Under some conditions, other things cause them to go into senescence. And as you get older, you get worse and worse at removing them. And a big part of aging, and it's one of, I think, is it 8 markers of aging, is a buildup of too many senescent cells that are they're taking resources, but they're useless. Okay, so that's a senescent cell. Now, a senescent cell isn't actually dead. It's just basically one step from it and the immune system, or it's supposed to induce basically cellular suicide to get it out of there. Yeah. Zombie cell is just a colloquialism, a nickname for senescent cells. So they're zombies. They're kind of there among the cells. They should have been removed. They haven't. They're useless. They're mindless. They're brainless. They're taking up space and then eventually interfering. Okay, now, cancer in a way is the opposite. Cancer is a cell where the ability to regulate and stop reproducing has been turned off. So they just reproduce infinitely. They're not necessarily doing their job anymore. Or if they are, it doesn't matter. There are just too many of them.
They're scary like zombies, though.
Right. And it's almost the opposite of senescent, which stopped reproducing.
Yeah.
But it turns out that cancers can develop their own senescent cancer cells. They don't reproduce. They have all the mistakes built into them and uselessness of the cancer, and they're sitting there among the cancer, but they won't reproduce. And do you want to take it from there?
So apparently these zombie cancer cells are an inoculation to help your immune system recognize and fight cancer. Is that correct?
Well, cancer cells have their own markers, and that's how your immune system searches them. But you want to kind of prep and train a whole army of immune cells to recognize them. So they have worked on
So it has the same markers
to try to introduce, and you always want to introduce something safe. You don't want to put an active version of something that you're trying to get rid of or to prevent. And by the way, the whole idea of usually when you talk vaccine inoculation, you're talking, let's introduce it so you recognize it before it ever gets there. So the first time you ever really encounter it.
There's a weakened form, or they say kind of a
but
dead
here
cell.
we're talking, it's already there, but you still want to use the same concept of teach the immune system. It's like training a dog. Here's what you're sniffing. Go after that.
Yes.
Okay, so you want the immune system primed to go after that. So they've tried different ways, and they found that a very safe way to get good effectiveness in priming the immune system is to find zombie cell versions of the cancer and put that in, and the immune system will suddenly be hunting the dangerous cancer cells.
And that's, I guess, the standard inoculation. The traditional was a weakened, they call it dead form of the virus that it's supposed to attack. But you can't really do that with cancer until now, because every other cancer cell was scary and multiplying very quickly. So this is I would say a novel technique, and I guess something that is brilliant idea after finding out that a senescent cancer cell even existed.
Right, and the senescent cell, because you don't have to try to pick. Remember, if you kill a cell, you don't know if you're going to kill off some of the things you wanted to recognize. If you decide to pick and just send specific proteins, you might not introduce the exact right thing the immune system will be looking at in the living cell. But here you're introducing a living cancer cell, exactly what the immune system needs to learn about. In basic training, this is what the enemy dresses like. This is what they do. This is how to recognize them. But it's a cell that won't reproduce, which is the main problem. So it's kind of like the perfect trainer.
But I guess the one thing, this would have to be very specific to the individual. While there's a lot of cancers that have similar markers, in some regard, every cancer is different. Even, pick a category of cancers, there's multiple variations, because it's how did that cell go haywire, looking at the the structure that has been adjusted for each cancer is almost different. So you have to find pretty much the right one. But I guess you could almost have a database, right?
And if a person has more than one cancer, they need more than one zombie type.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, this was completely unplanned, and this is sometimes how news articles taken from the same time are different sides of a coin. We have talked about training your immune system that is attacking things that aren't you to better recognize them. And we've also talked about how to take an immune system that's attacking things that aren't you not to attack them.
Exactly. Look, the immune system is very powerful in the sense that we need it, but there's certain situations where it could be detrimental, autoimmune diseases. But if learning how to control it and or steer it in the direction we like would be overwhelmingly beneficial for not just autoimmune diseases, but in this case, cancer. Having the immune system recognize and attack cancer-specific cells is something that's so much better than taking some synthetic drug or, if anyone knows about chemotherapy, which is pretty much just poisoning the body, which just damages everything, not just the cancer cells. So being that specific is essentially almost like an inoculation for cancer.
Well, a lot of treatments are, we're going to do something very bad and hope that you outlast. Whether it's the cold virus, you get a fever.
Yeah.
And the high temperature hopefully kills the virus before it kills you. So a lot of treatments we do, radiation, chemo, is kind of the same thing. And we're trying to get more and more targeted instead of 30, 40 years ago, just an all-out assault, like bombing the body with radiation. We want to get more and more like snipers.
Exactly.
Assassins just going after the target.
Thank you for listening to another exciting episode of the Kinetic Life Podcast. I hope you learned something new today, something you could share with a friend or even family. As always, I want to thank everyone for all the emails, the positive comments. If you have something that you'd like for us to discuss on the next episode, you could reach out to us at podcast@kineticlife.com. We accept all sorts of questions, constructive criticism, insults to Mark. Just to Mark, though. I don't accept insults.
You mean like that insult I got last week? Why are you working with that bum?
Exactly. I question it all the time. Thank you again, and until next time, I'm your host, Michael Shalavudis.
And I'm Mark Hertzberg. And remember, drink Kinetic Renew for that
smooth focus. And if you can't remember, that's probably because you're not drinking Kinetic Renew. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and if you have a moment, please give us a positive review. It really helps. And we look forward to doing it all again in 2 weeks. Until next time.
See you then.
We're sponsored by Kinetic Renew. Kinetic Renew is a 4-ounce shot of all natural ingredients that deliver some amazing benefits, like improved mental clarity, long and short-term focus, and improved memory and cognition. Plus, Kinetic Renew improves mood with the added benefits of anti-stress and anti-anxiety. Kinetic Renew provides antioxidants and neuroprotection. And all this with no caffeine, no artificial flavors, sweeteners, or colors, and it's only 5 calories. Kinetic Renew is what you drink to arrive focused and alert, and you won't get that caffeine or sugar crash. Visit kineticlife.com today. That's KINETIQ life.com and try it. Use promo code POD1 for a special 30% discount. That's POD and the number 1, POD1 for a limited time 30% discount. kineticlife.com. KINETIQ life.com. Do it now. Give it a try. You're going to love it. The 30% off is for a limited time, so log on now for the savings. Thank you for listening to the Kinetic Life Podcast. Catch a new show every other Thursday. You'll find us everywhere you can listen to a podcast. And remember, be safe, have fun, and go for your dreams. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. All comments, jokes, views, and ideas expressed are those of the hosts or guests and do not represent any company or organizations with whom they may be affiliated. Always make sure to consult your own physician before starting any new diet, supplement, or exercise routine. Oh, and there's one more thing. If you're working on something that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. Steve Jobs.